Back home in Studio B, it's nice to be here. I always enjoy going out on the road, and it was nice to get to have an opportunity to visit with y'all from the hotel earlier this week. But it's also nice to be back home in Studio B. Good evening. Thanks for stopping by Midwest Sportsnet. We're going to talk about NAIA football tonight. The playoffs have started. 4 games are in the books. Some of you all, I know that your team, hopefully your team won. As a matter of fact, Anthony, I know your team won. Thanks for stopping by tonight. If you're still watching, I know that you have a vested interest in how the Bobcats play, and they have drawn a very tough assignment for this week. For some of you all, your teams are yet to play. I know for Jake, his team's not in it, but he is definitely giving a shout out to the KCAC. So thank you all for watching tonight. Listen, top 5 performances. We're going to talk about that. Let's get to it. And we'll do it just a little bit differently tonight. We are going to give you some scores, and then we will talk about those top 5 performances. Very, very brief preview for this coming week. And actually, I wanted to ask your opinion about something too, because it's Thursday, it's Thanksgiving. That is our normal night to preview things. Had to make the adjustment this past week because of volleyball broadcast, which, by the way, was a lot of fun. But we can do a preview on Wednesday night. We don't have church on that night. Some of you all may still have church on that Wednesday night at like 8:30 or 9 Central, or we could do it on Thanksgiving Thursday night. So let me know. But we definitely want to preview the second round of the playoffs. Scores. We have scores from the first round. Not really a lot of surprise here. And those of you who are KCAC, at least KCAC fans, KCAC Bissell fans, Ottawa 6-5, making it into the playoffs. It was really no surprise there overall. Dordt comes away with a victory. For Dordt, it's the first postseason win ever. And, you know, that's a lot to be said for that. Winton Ruth got things started off for Ottawa, 73-yard touchdown run. And that opened the scoring, and then after that, it was all Dordt all the time. So we'll go, Dordt gets the playoff win. I don't think anyone's surprised, I think is what we're saying there. Ottawa was definitely the number 20 seed. I'm not even sure how these seeds work out now. I think they're just numbers, really, at this point in time. We'll talk about that just a little bit more. So we'll go from there. I know a lot of folks online tonight. Thank you, Han Solo, for watching. Anthony for watching. Jake for watching. Really appreciate that. Milton, thank you for watching tonight. And whichever one works. Either night's good. Well, then that's fine. We'll do it on Wednesday night. I look forward to getting to visit with you all again more quickly. So we'll do it on Wednesday night. That sounds good. I'll go from there. All right. Listen, Football 45. I know you had a tough loss yesterday. We're going to bring your score up in a moment, but I wanted to definitely recognize that. Somebody who did have also a vested interest in yesterday's contests. All right, move on along there. Dordt comes away with the victory. This one is the one that Football 45 is referring to. So put that back up there. Fantastic season. And I had 4 picks, and this was the only one I missed. So I felt kind of good about that. But Louisiana Christian in the playoffs for the first time, best season ever. And you have to give a shout out to the folks there in Pineville. Great season for Louisiana Christian. They were up 28-21, and then Baker just went on a run. 35 unanswered points to close out the games. For Baker, it was the first playoff win since beating Olivet Nazarene 59-54 back in 2020, spring of 2021, however you want to throw that one out there. I'm just really glad there were playoffs that year. Seriously, I was thankful to see that happen. So Baker comes away with the victory. Miguel Regalado, the co-coach of the year in the Heart South. He shares that honor with Paul Hansen, and I say that because we're going to get to hear from Coach Hansen in a couple of days. So stay tuned for that. He'll be on the channel in 2 days. Kenan Karn, a game-high 16 tackles for Baker, had an interception. This guy's had 6 picks in the last 6 games. It's a pretty incredible average there. So shout out to the folks who are Louisiana Christian fans and Football 45. I know you are as well. So there we go. Dale, thank you for being on. And look, I appreciate that. I want everyone to have a great holiday. Either one of those, I'm sure we're going to be watching football on Thursday of some kind. So there we go. Roger, glad to see you on tonight. I appreciate seeing your name come up there. Thanks for being a part. And Milton, Indiana Wesleyan, that's next week. So we'll definitely talk about that. All right, let's continue on along. Dickinson State This one, and actually, I think I went against the grain on this one. There were a lot of folks that picked Montana Tech. I went ahead and went with Dickinson State. I just feel like that they're doing well. Now, again, every one of these winners is drawing an extremely tough assignment coming into Saturday's play, but just felt like there was a little bit more in the tank for the Blue Hawks, and they took care of business, did what they needed to do. You know, the men's basketball team for Dickinson State went to Butte, Montana on Thursday, and the Blue Hawks got an upset win, 87-78 over Montana Tech. That's the men's basketball team. So Dickinson State's football team travels to Butte, Montana on Saturday and comes away with a win. And props to Dickinson State, by the way, too. The Blue Hawks have made now 9 straight playoff appearances. This goes back to 2015, 9 straight North Star wins, championships, titles, and along that way, in 8 previous trips to the playoffs, they won only once. 2015, you lose to Montana Tech. 2016, they lose to Montana Tech. The only victory that the Blue Hawks have had in the playoffs in the last 8 years prior to this was in 2018 when they got the win over Northwestern. That was in Orange City. I think that would be a tough call to do right now. And yes, we're going with the cough drop tonight. I tried, I promise. Used too much on the broadcast on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So a win for Dickinson State in this. Will Madler, great job. 9 for 17 passing, 244 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and no interceptions with that very, very tough Montana Tech defense. So you got to get a lot of props to Dickinson State for pulling that one off. Hey, Dave, thanks for being on tonight. Really appreciate that. And, man, I'm glad you're going to be here. Let's look toward Wednesday night. Let's try to do that, and we'll do it 8:30 or 9 o'clock Central and go from there. All right. One more. Did we get one more score? Can't forget this score. Reinhardt. We do not pick against Reinhardt in the regular season. However, I had to pick against Reinhardt in this one on the road. Miami Gardens taking on St. Thomas. And you know the Bobcats and Coach Reichel's team definitely wanted to show that they deserve to be there, and they definitely deserve to be there. There's no question about that. They really showed that they deserve to be there, getting the victory in this one. Reinhardt held to only 55 rushing yards. I think that was as big as anything. The Bobcats defense was tough, and I mean, you look at 55 points and you say that's a big win. It was the Bobcats defense, I think, that made as much of a statement in this one, and yet another team that has drawn a tough assignment. The defense is really going to have to come into play if St. Thomas is able to continue in the second round. And, well, I know, Anthony, if you are still watching, you definitely had somebody in this one. First ever playoff win in program history. Reinhardt, it was tough. We've talked about what Taylor Jackson has done a few times over the course of the year. He was pulled after the first quarter. They bring in Stephen Craig. He came in the second quarter, had a fair day, threw 1 touchdown pass, but it simply was not enough. There was just too much St. Thomas all the time in this one. So let's look here really quickly, and we look at our top 5. Ready to go to the top 5? I'm ready to go to the top 5. There's no reason to push it on anymore. Top 5 performers on the day, on Saturday, and here they are. Rontavious Farmer. Let's talk about what he did. He's just a great running back. We knew coming into the season he was going to be a fantastic running back. He did his job in this game as well, and he did everything he was asked to do. 35 carries, 179 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. The Sun Conference Offensive Player of the Year. He showed out at home, and why not? And you know that place was rocking in Miami Gardens with the fans that were there. And I had read, it was posted, it was probably just about the same atmosphere as the very first home game they had there. And no doubt about it, and it should be. The Bobcats did prove. They did what they needed to do. And I think if you've been watching, we've talked about it all year long. St. Thomas 9-2. The previous 2 years didn't make the playoffs. They get in this year, 9-3 now with that win on Saturday. So congratulations to the Bobcats. A really big win. And Rontavious Farmer, one of our top 5 performers. We move on down. Next, Dordt, as it was mentioned, and Han Solo says, look, when Ottawa scored first, I thought they had a chance. That ended very, very quickly. It was the defense again. And if you'll notice a pattern right here, we're going to talk about a few things over the course of this night. The first 4 names on that list are all running backs. It was a ground game. It was a ground attack in the first round of these NAIA football playoff series, but it was defense that made a difference as well. Even in one of the higher scoring games, it was the defense that made the difference. But you see what Brendan Piper did: 20 carries, 110 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns for Piper. He's honorable mention all GPAC. Wow, and in that GPAC, it's tough to get into those conference honors. There are just too many stellar athletes there. And Piper still makes it in. Honorable mention. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to Dordt. And wow, what do you get for a reward for winning in your first round? We'll talk about that in just a moment. But Brandon Piper, one of our top 5 performers. We move on. Rashawn Graves. We stay with the running back thing. Graves for Baker. And Baker was trailing in this one. I had Louisiana Christian winning this contest. That was a tough ask to do as you go on the road to Baldwin, take on the team that is the all-time winningest program in NAIA history. They proved it, trailing 28-21 in the third quarter. You get a touchdown, you blow it open, 35 unanswered points. Again, first playoff win since 2020. Rashawn Graves, 18 carries, 149 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns on the day. Second team, all Hart South. Fantastic day for Rashawn Graves. And then we go to that Dickinson State game. Now, tonight's not a long program, by the way. We will talk about a few things, and I appreciate you all responding in the comment section. I pretty much know where everyone is in our comments right now, but if you're watching tonight and you haven't commented yet, please let us know from where you're watching. We just enjoy getting to visit with you and be part of the family here on Midwest Sports Net. Dickinson State, great day for Braden Zuroff. 30 carries, 227 yards. He has had a stellar season, and he crossed the 1,000-yard rushing mark with that 227 yards on the day. Did it pretty early. He tied a 20-year-old record for rushing touchdowns as well. Now 19 rushing touchdowns on the season for Zuroff. First Blue Hawk player since 2017 to have at least 1,000 yards rushing on the season. He had a very big day, but he wasn't the only one that had a big day. And this came down to the wire. Of course, the final score, 35-28, Dickinson State with the victory over Montana Tech. Went back and forth all game long, and you look at it and you think maybe this is going to take the same route that Baker Louisiana Christian game did. It absolutely did not, and that's thanks to the Blue Hawks defense. Dickinson State scored on Zuroff's 3rd touchdown of the day, and Montana Tech had one more opportunity in the 4th quarter. Blake Thielen led his team well through the day, and he's bringing them back down the court. They're driving. It was a great battle between Levi Torgerson, one of the receivers for Montana Tech, and Joey DeMarco all through that possession. And Torgerson got a couple of good receptions along the way, including Tech going for it on 4th and 2. Torgerson was able to get past DeMarco and pick up a catch for 9 yards, able to move the chains. Thielen went right back to him, incomplete. Going back one more time, and that was probably too many times. DeMarco steps in, gets the interception. That was one of 2 interceptions on the day for Joey DeMarco. He runs it back 25 yards, and that was it. 4.5 minutes left. I think 4:38. That was 4:38 because that effectively sealed the game. When Dickinson State got it back, it was a steady dose of Zuroff. I think 5 consecutive runs from Zuroff, and then we got to see a little bit more. Will Madler carried the ball a couple of times as well in that. Ran the entire 4:38 off the clock and took care of the victory. Dickinson State on the road gets the win. So congratulations to the Blue Hawks. And again, Braden Zuroff and Joey DeMarco making our top 5 performers on the week. Now, I'm going to see if I can try to pull this up for you really quickly so you can see. Most everyone, I'm sure, has seen this page on the web. You see that right there? There we go. Let's get rid of the top 5 performers for just a moment so you can see that. That's what it looks like. There's your second round right there. And hey, Taylor, by the way, shout out really quickly. My favorite director and technical director. She has done a fantastic job with me. Got to work with Taylor this past week, and she does a fantastic job for M&M Productions and, of course, the GAC Sports crew. Jake in East Wichita, Kansas, home of the Capon Crusaders. 5A state champions, first time since 87. By the way, in fall of 87, I was a junior in high school, Jake, so there you go. All right, we look at this one more time. You see the top 8 seeds in order. They're going to be playing at home. I go back to what Han Solo said a little bit earlier, and if I can bring his comment up here, because I agree. You do what you do. It's everything you can do, and it just, unfortunately, wasn't enough. Disappointed, didn't make in the top 8. Now, hopefully, they can do something here. And this is where you have to make this statement. You have to get in there. And for Evangel, this is going to be a tough ask, too, because you're going to be on the road in McKenzie, Tennessee, taking on a Wildcats team that is also trying to make a big-time statement in this. You look down the list there, a couple things that I notice. Number one is there are going to be plenty of storylines, absolutely plenty of storylines for these games. We'll talk about on Wednesday night as we preview the games, and we'll go over some of those storylines. Another thing I notice in this, and you all probably have noticed this as well, a lot of repeat games. There are a lot of conference opponents that are facing each other in, I know it's the second round, but for all intents and for all purposes, this is a first-round game for, at least 12 of these teams. So that's where it gets to be a little bit tough. And I have shown my frustration about the seeding in here, and I'll make 2 statements about it really quickly. And I think it's one of those things, we make it now, and then we move on and enjoy football. Okay, the first one is this. Dickinson State, and scroll over there. You can see it. Dickinson State taking on Grandview on the road at Grandview. They're listed as the number 14 seed. I didn't think that the selection committee was going to renumber some of these teams from one round to the next. You keep the same seed or keep the same number. It's not really a seed at this point, but we'll talk about that in the next point. If Dickinson State was really the number 14 seed, how are they playing on the road? I've looked at this a number of times since I saw it yesterday, and I don't understand that. Why would a number 14 seed be playing on the road over a number 17, 18, 19, not 20, because we know that was Ottawa? So that was a little bit of a question there. The second thing that I would say is this. I've come to the point now that I've gotten frustrated with the seeding. It doesn't hold true to what I know as a bracket. We've already said it's not really a bracket. It's a playoff series. And so I'm just going to give it that. They're numbers, and they're numbers beside names. Let's just enjoy the playoffs and enjoy how they face off against one another. People like Roger can put this together and definitely come up with a structure to know who's going to play who from one round to the next. I'm not sure who's going to play who from one round to the next, but I'm excited about getting to watch the football and get to talk about it. So Dave says it's conference knockout round. I agree. And let me throw that one up there, Dave, really quickly. I get frustrated sometimes. And I'm going to explain my point. While we're still here, let's go with that point. A conference knockout round, would have liked to see them mix it up a little bit more. I would have liked to have seen that too, because who's to say that some of these conferences don't have teams that could very well meet for a national championship? Let's pick the GPAC really quickly since we're there. Northwestern's been number 1 for a long time, all year long. Previous years, Morningside's been number 1. Now, this is not to take away from Grandview, but let's just mention conference for a moment. If they're really the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country, then why couldn't they meet for a national championship? And the way this sets up, not in this case in particular, but we've seen this happen before where the conference teams knock one another out and they don't get to play deeper in the playoffs, which according to the rankings, not ratings, that's the way they've been all year long. And they should have had an opportunity to see each other a little bit later on in the playoffs. Now, again, not the case with how it's laid out right there. But I've seen this. Here's how I want to take it to its full to its fruition here. I've seen it in basketball a number of times too. And it should never be that case in basketball, because these are teams that are not meeting in one place or another. They're not going on the road. Travel's not involved at that point in time. And when two NAIA men's basketball teams or women's basketball teams meet early rounds and knock one another out, whether it be from the same conference or I've seen it in particular from the same state, that they knock one another out in the first round of the men's basketball tournament or women's basketball tournament, they're all in the same place. They all travel to Kansas City. They all travel to Jackson, Tennessee, or Sioux City, Iowa, or wherever the case may be. It's not an issue of travel at that point in time. And those teams from a conference level or even from a state level shouldn't have to play one another and knock, all the opportunities for your state to have bragging rights out, possibly, or at least cut them down from 2-1 overnight in the first round of the tournament. So that's where I have a little bit of a frustration in that. So anyway, put this up there from Dale. It is unfortunate that economics and travel consideration affect how the NAIA directs the matchup as much as it does. And I get it, but it's still unfortunate. And Dale, I get it too. And it's still unfortunate. I'm just a bracket purist, I guess. Is that a word? I don't think I've ever said that before, but I'll say it right here. I'm a bracket purist. I would love to see the bracket hold true. I would love to see the seeds hold true. If they really are seeds 1 through 16 or 1 through 20, if they really are that with that number that's put outside their name, then that's how I would like to see it play out. If it's not going to be that way, I get it. I understand that. I'm not in charge. I'm not the president of a university. I'm not the athletic director of a university. I'm definitely not working in the finance office to try to get it all done and taken care of. So I do understand that. I get it. But that's why we get to talk about it. So that's there. And I agree with Dale and Dave on both of those levels as well. So we start to wind down our show tonight. Thanks for showing up here on a Sunday night. And let's look at it really quickly. We know there's your number one team, Northwestern, going to be taking on a conference opponent right now. We'll break this down on Wednesday night and talk about it just a little bit more. Number 2 team in the country, Grandview. Wow, what a season the Vikings have had. And they really, really have done well. This is a team that puts points on the board. It's a team that is absolutely dominating on defense. Incredible what the Vikings are doing. That goes a long way. Roger, let's go ahead and put this one up there since you posted that. If they were marketing their brand so they had the funds and flying was not a question, we would see more of a legit bracket. I agree. I like that point too. If they were marketing their brand, that's an interesting point. I think if they were marketing, maybe the better marketing helps increase the funds. It might. It could go a long way. It couldn't hurt. That's for sure. It definitely couldn't hurt. And people like you and me then, because we enjoy watching it and we like this brand of football, I think we would help them market it. Just saying. All right. Grandview dominating on defense. How about this matchup? This is fun. This is really fun, but it plays, as a matter of fact, they're all going to play into the scenario. This one, as much as any of them, play into the scenario. How about 2 teams that busted their backsides to schedule incredibly tough opponents, make it into the playoffs, and now they're going to have to see each other in the first round. But again, it's the distance that goes on. Baker on the road at Georgetown. Not too far a trip right there. That's not, by the way, if you look really closely, that's not the same color orange. I promise I got the Baker orange and the Georgetown orange in there. Enjoy playing with some of these graphics sometimes. It looks similar. It is not the same. This should be a fun one. There's another team with a good defense that we'll talk about on Wednesday night. St. Xavier, haven't mentioned that much about them lately. They are in the playoffs, did what they needed to do to get there. I think there were a lot of folks that would like to have seen a couple other teams maybe over that 7-3, but they won that Midwest division, so props to them for doing that. And Marion, a team of which I know Roger is a big-time fan. I'm looking forward to seeing what Marion does on the field this year. Well, they have at least one more game at home, so maybe 2, depending upon what happens in those previous games. So we'll see how that plays out. There could be an upset in it. This has storylines as well. How about those Indiana Wesleyan Wildcats with a home game against Morningside? If you had told Coach Andrew Rohde when he left Morningside to take the job at Indiana Wesleyan that he was going to face Morningside in the first round of the playoffs, he might have said, okay, I can see that happening. That could play out. This could be for a great story. He's going to get to see Morningside somewhere in the playoffs, somewhere down the line. If you tell him he's going to host this game against Morningside in the first round or second round, first time these two teams play, I don't know if he would have believed that. He probably would have said, okay, listen, I'll take that. I'll take those odds any day around. And yeah, Dale, I agree with you. It's at the same point exactly. As Coach Rohde left Morningside, this is a big deal. I think it's going to be a fun game. We'll talk about that one a little bit more. Just throwing these out here for you so we'll be ready for Wednesday night. Han Solo, Evangel, the Valor on the road, taking on Bethel. It is what it is. But let's address this point. They have to get a win. It's the same thing with Louisiana Christian and the Sooner Athletic Conference. And I know Vince talked about this on the forum last weekend. You have to get that win. The Sooner Athletic Conference, I'm frustrated for Texas Wesleyan. And I realize I live in the Sooner State, so it's not necessarily a Sooner thing. But I live in the Sooner State. Texas Wesleyan is definitely not in the Sooner State. I'm frustrated for them. This is back-to-back years of sharing a conference championship, being at the top in a three-way tie, and Texas Wesleyan not going to see the playoffs. And Louisiana Christian, who beat Texas Wesleyan by the exact amount of points they needed to get into the playoffs. I mean, if Louisiana Christian scores only 9 more than the Rams, Texas Wesleyan is in. They had to either win or lose by less than 10. And Louisiana Christian did what it needed to do. Texas Wesleyan on the outside looking in. Sooner Athletic Conference, though, still struggling because the Wildcats were unable to get the win. And not downing Louisiana Christian, but it's going to be another year. It may be 2 more years. It's going to take some kind of and I haven't even mentioned OUAZ, who comes in with 1 loss on the schedule and still didn't make it. So this has to be frustrating for Sooner Athletic Conference fans. And the same thing you could look at for the KCAC here. Friends on the outside looking in. It was, well, Bethel fell apart as the season went on. Bethel Threshers, not the Bethel Wildcats. KCAC needs a win. And Jake Redcorn has it right. Go Valor, go, because the KCAC needs a win here. And this is a very tough ask going up against the Bethel team that needs a win also. They need that first round or second round victory after last season coming in undefeated, just where Bethel is right now, dropping in the first game that they get to play in the playoffs. This is going to be a fun one to watch and to follow, but there's so much on the line for both of these teams, and not so much for the Mid-South, because the Mid-South, it's shown itself to be dominant. You have a national championship in recent years with Lindsey Wilson anyway. It's not so much for the Mid-South as it is for the KCAC. So a lot of Evangel fans throughout the state of Kansas, I almost guarantee you. And one more here. College of Idaho and Montana Western. It's another repeat game. I did not have the Frontier Conference as a 3-bid league. And I know that there are folks that are watching from the Frontier Conference, and I'm sorry, I didn't have the Frontier Conference as a 3-bid league. You've already lost one of them in Montana Tech. You're going to lose another one right now. So I wasn't trying to speak that into existence or anything, but you're looking at 1 bid after this weekend anyway around. This was a tough one. But again, it goes back to the Kaiser St. Thomas game, and we've already hashed it all out. So we'll break down the game itself a little bit more on Wednesday night. But it's still, I think everyone is there. If let's see here, Han Solo, let's put this up there. If more schools move to the NAIA and join some of these conferences that are viewed as weak, it should help the parity across the NAIA. It could. You see more. There are some teams coming back. There are a number of schools that are coming back, and the school from Ohio that Defiant, that one's coming back. Going to be a part of the Mid-States Football Association as well. Oklahoma Panhandle just a few years back came back from Division II. Defiant coming back from Division III. Louisiana Christian, formerly used at Louisiana College, coming in from Division III as well. There are some schools that are coming back. I've seen it trend the other way more over the last decade to 15. I want to say, let's just say decade, from NAI to Division II. I do a lot of work in Division II as well, and I've seen it more go the other way. But I agree with you that if that were to happen, it would help. And there are some teams making the move from Division II to NAI or Division III to NAI is not a drop. It's a business decision as much as anything. And that's where people need to see it. Some might see it as a drop. You're going down, if you will, down the national affiliation. It doesn't have to be a drop. Sometimes it's just a financial decision. Sometimes it's just a business decision. And, are the people around you in competitive, or are you competitive with them at whatever level? Would you be in a better level of competition? Not lower, different. Not lower, better, if you were to make that move to NAI. And it presents itself for some of these schools. And one other thing too, and thank you, Roger. I appreciate that. It is a little bit more than I planned. But there are a number of schools that are coming in. John Melvin is going to come in. Now, John Melvin doesn't bring a name like what I know Han Solo is talking about, because this is a program that's just starting. John Melvin is coming in. Thomas starts the football program. Not a fantastic season. Year one, who knows what's going to happen from that. So that was a big deal as well. Defiant will bring a D3 name. And there are some others that are coming in. But my point about that was going to be, there are a number of schools that are making the move up to NAI from wherever they were, whether it be a junior college level or maybe an NCCAA level solely, or a USCAA level, whatever the case may be. The only thing about that is that most of those schools that are making that move to the NAI are not football schools. You'll see a lot of these smaller schools that do want to be four-year NAI programs, be part of this national affiliation. But at this point in their athletic journey, they have men's and women's basketball, volleyball, soccer possibly, and baseball and or softball, likely both. So they make it into the NAI, but it's not bringing football in. Really excited about what I think Simpson is going to bring to the table in California. And I'll tell you something else. I think that may open up something for some of those California schools who have been toying with the idea of football to really, really consider the idea of football a little bit more. Simpson, and I already talked with Coach Daniel out there, he definitely wants to be a part of the Frontier Conference. And if they haven't asked him already, I encourage you, ask him, because they're going to bring something solid to the table with what they do. But if Simpson can have a good program, depends on what happens in year one. We saw Arizona Christian absolutely get boat raced throughout the conference when they made the move from the Sooner Athletic into the Frontier Conference. It was a rude awakening. That's not going to last. The firestorm will come back. They'll make the adjustments. It's not going to be running all over ACU all the time. It was this year. It's not going to happen all the time. Simpson probably is going to come in and find that it's challenging in the Frontier Conference when and if they get there, or if and when they get there. I think they should make it in. But it will also, I think, open up those eyes to some more California schools that have the money and the resources not that far away. There are some good high school fields that can be used where you can host games and bring people in, even if you don't have a field put together yet. But there are California NAI schools. There are many of them that are not without money, and they could get a football program, and it's going to take someone like Simpson to get it done. Did we hash that one out? I think we stayed on that one for a little bit too long. But anyway, no, it's a very good point, Han Solo. I agree. It's a very good point, and I think it needs to be addressed. So we've talked about just about everyone there. We will preview these properly on Wednesday night, and it'll be either 8:30 Central or 9 o'clock. I know that I don't have church that night, because it's the Wednesday before Thursday. Maybe some of you all do, and I want to try to make sure that it goes around y'all's schedule too, and then we'll enjoy the weekend and hopefully talk some more. So thank you again for watching. Milton says really quickly, let's bring this up here. Milton says it's great to see Coach Rhodey play against his old team, but a win would definitely be the cherry on top. Go Wildcats. Milton, absolutely, that would be big. And you know this, by the way, he wants that win. How big would that be? I coached on the high school level. I coached high school basketball for 7 years, coached high school football for 1 year. I enjoy talking about the high school basketball a little bit more because I was a better high school basketball coach. But going back to coaching against the school that I played at when I was in high school, definitely wanted to win. That was a big deal. I also remember in the playoffs 1 year that my high school coach came to watch the playoff game. I'm telling you, that there was as much pressure that I put on myself as there was nobody in the gym could not have put any more pressure on me than I put the pressure on me, because I knew Coach Laster was in the stand and he was watching what I would do. He's watching some of his old plays too, things that I had carried over from high school because they worked, and wish they'd worked a little better that night. But anyway, that's all right. Todd, thank you for watching tonight. Glad to get to do it. Dale, thank you for watching. And as Milton says, happy Thanksgiving to all. So I'm going to put that up there. We will leave with that point. I want to give a special shout out to my son, Joseph. I am so proud of you. I'm so glad you are my son. I'm so thankful that God gave you to me. Shout out to everyone else. Thank you for watching tonight. I'll see you on Wednesday night for sure. Don't forget, we have Coach Hansen coming on. It should be on Tuesday. We'll put that video online. Please give it a watch. And for everyone else, be back on Wednesday night. We'll have lots of fun. Happy Thanksgiving week. Be thankful this week. God's blessed us a lot. We have a lot to be thankful for. So please be thankful this week, and I will see you all later. Have a great night.